I'm Dave Bedford. Started running in 1964, was 73rd in English schools, and in 1973 broke the world record for 10,000 meters. I've been involved in the sport really, apart from the first 13 years of my life in athletics, competitor and then administrator, event organizer. And this kind of interview gives an opportunity just to think back to some of the early bits, things like perhaps what my favorite race ever was. And I suppose it's a cross between three. Clearly you can't say that you broke a world record in your life and it's not a favorite race. But also, I guess winning the Southern Cross Country Championships, senior followed by junior, without doubt was a great day. It hadn't been done before, and they even changed the rules subsequently by putting the junior race on now before the seniors to stop anyone else doing it. And I suppose that 73rd in English schools, when at one stage in my life I thought I was the 73rd best in the country in the 64, also really gave me a taste for I could be quite good at this, but I didn't realise the massive journey that you'd have to go on to achieve that. I suppose much of that is about training. I had a really good coach, Bob Parker, aided and abetted by Sylvia, his wife, probably from the age of 15 onwards. I was introduced to him, and he had a significant impact on my life. Virtually became a second dad, and was always there for me. Understood he wasn't an international runner himself. He was just a county runner, but he was always there at every single training session. Well, not every training session because he couldn't run as fast as me, but certainly on the track sessions he was always there. I fondly remember the victory lap after breaking the world record, running around the track with him, and yeah, that was really a great memory from those days. I suppose, I had a career where there were lots of ups and downs, plenty of injuries, which a lot of people put down to potentially doing too much training. I ended up running quite almost daily, 3 times a day, 200 miles a week. I actually remember massive experimentation when I was a student at a teacher training college in Brighton. I shared a room with a South London Harrier called Chris Thompson, and we were constantly experimenting. And the best I did was 5 sessions in a day, with the last one being at about 10:30 at night, which was just an easy 3 miles on a nice bit of grass, just to perhaps ease my legs down a bit. So I experimented, but I found that distance running made me incredibly strong, and I naturally didn't have any great speed. I think my fastest 400 ever was probably 54 and a half seconds, and that was with Bob Parker's watch, which probably meant that he made it a bit better than it really was. But when I ran, if I was on form, it was quite difficult to beat me. However, like all people without a sprint finish, I had to be on top form, and as all distance runners know, you can't be on top form all the time. So I never won a gold medal at a major championship. I was the international cross country champion. So looking back, I could have done better, but I could have done an awful lot worse. And the journey was an exciting one. To be young and good at sport, I don't think life can ever be better than that. I've got closer enjoyment and excitement of things over the years, but never quite as much as trying to be the best in the world. I think that I had a lot of other good races, and I suppose, well, at one stage I held every British record from 2,000 metres to 10,000 metres, including the steeplechase, that 2,000 was I think 5.3 point something. So I didn't have speed, but I did have strength. There's a whole load of different questions that people ask about. I suppose I was probably famous for long hair. Still got it, but it's a different colour these days. I wear it. Used to be jet black. Moustache. Been there since straight after the Olympics, 1972. And red socks. I used to race in red socks. Didn't used to train in them, but it was an attempt to try and look a little bit stylish, which is quite difficult for a gangly, long-haired, mustachio youngster. But that's the way it was. And whatever shoes I could be given, I had. I was with Gola. I think I had a deal with Gola. I think they still make sports shoes. I don't think they make spikes and that anymore. Although when I broke the world record, I was just at the time swapping from Gola to Adidas, and I ran in Adidas spikes with Gola stripes down so that I didn't get in trouble as far as the contract was concerned. I think just recently Chris Thompson did something very similar with the shoes he wore, but his was legit. The company who sponsors him was happy for it to happen. It was a secret. So if there's anyone alive from Gola, I apologise for that, and I won't do it again. Thinking about shoes and the super shoes that people are wearing today, I'm in two minds about it. I've spoken long and hard with Tim Hutchins and absolutely understand his view that it's significantly changed the world. And I've tried to put my head into space of, well, if I was running today, what would I do? Well, I'd certainly be wearing them, and I think that the next stage of it, which is, okay, if they do you good, that's maybe fine, but to try and if you're an athlete who tries to kid other people, that they make no difference at all, which is something I find quite astounding when I hear that. I think that's that's a bit too strong. But the world changes. We used to run on cinder tracks, and cinder became tartan. Altitude training was suddenly shown to be of benefit to distance runners on the back of lead up to the 1968 Olympics. And I certainly was lucky enough to be able to take advantage of altitude training, and it definitely helped. It wasn't illegal, and I think that in everyone's career, whenever they have it, their object is to run as fast as possible and win as many races as possible. So I recognise that you can't now compare times necessarily. Times run with the super shoes to the way it was perhaps when I was running, but equally, when I look at someone like Emil Zatopek, who I admired from the start, in the 50s when he was breaking records, life was very different then from the way it was when I was running, and it's again significantly different. So I think there is an argument to say, as long as people understand that these kind of innovations come in at one stage or the other, then I think it's okay. But you've got to tell the truth, right? They do help people run faster. Talking about Chris Thompson and the Olympic trials, I was involved in that event. It was my son Tom who organised them, and I sort of acted as a technical delegate, if you like, to make sure that the technical aspects were right. It was a good event in difficult circumstances. The weather wasn't the best, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And the course, I think, was fast, and the event was truly justified in that two men and one woman were able to self-qualify for the Olympics, which was what the trial was all about. I think one of the things that comes from it, and I know that in Athletics Weekly there have been some surveys about it. I really do think that at least once every 4 years, it's a great opportunity with the Olympic marathon trials to have them as a standalone event. We've seen the success of the night of the 10Ks, and I could see absolutely there being a massive amount of UK running interest in an event like that. I don't think you can do it all the time, and I think that the place for the trials for all of the other events, I think without doubt it's right that should be at the London Marathon. The London Marathon significantly help distance running financially in the UK, and it would probably even make sense for them to be the organisers of that event once every 4 years, and really allow the British runners who are taking part in that trial to show out in a way that often it's difficult to do when they're running in the elite field at the London Marathon. Let me just take a little break, just think about a couple of other things here. Just going back to Chris Thompson, I don't know whether when he came into that race he really thought that he could qualify, and the way his story goes is that he thought the leaders were going a bit too fast and therefore just eased back off of it. I think that in those circumstances, for him to be like 45 seconds down or whatever it was, to then come back and win that event in such style must be one of his best achievements ever. He's had some great ones, as was I think it's Stephanie Davis, I think is the name of the woman who ran 2:27 there. Two great performances. Chris is, because of the recent birth of his son and all that kind of stuff, obviously took the headline. But let's just hope now that he and the others stay fit and ready to take part in the Olympics. Where do we go from there? Let me go back a bit in time and just say that when I started running as a youngster, it was very easy to take part in athletics. Sport was something all youngsters did. I was no good at other sports. My football was crap. I used to play in goal because I didn't mind diving in the mud. Maybe my love for cross country came from that, actually. But athletics had a great history, and in that time, in the early 60s, we were on the back of that whole post-war 50s and early 60s generation, where we had amazing runners. When I started running, I was looking up to people like Dick Taylor, Alan Rushmere, Jim Hogan, Jimmy Alder, Ron Hill, Jerry North. It goes on and on and on, and to come through a period of time when, in the end, not only do you want to be as good as them, but you end up wanting to, and also achieving the ability to beat them, was a real great spur. So, and athletics and distance running, again, in particular, got a massive amount of coverage in the newspapers. In fact, it was the Daily Telegraph who used to sponsor the Inter-Counties Championships, and I remember watching as I was a youngster when the county teams were named over 2 or 3 weeks leading into the event, and seeing who was going to be there, and then one year having my name in the Middlesex team. So I think we were lucky. My generation were lucky, and of course, my generation also had some amazing runners. Ian Stewart, probably the greatest British distance runner of my generation. Won medals at major championships, won the World Cross Country Championships. Incredibly difficult to beat. Had great PBs from 1,500 meters all the way through to 10,000 meters. He couldn't steeplechase, mind you, but nonetheless, he was. He, in my opinion, was the best. But Tony Simmons, an amazing athlete. Don Fairclough, Andy Holden, sadly no longer with us, and it wasn't easy to get to the top of the tree. But I think that all of those people trying to be at the top of the tree meant that everyone was pushed that bit further. That's talking about the past. Talking about the future is interesting. I'm still involved with Shaftesbury Harriers, Shaftesbury Barnet Harriers as their full title, and have an interest in what happens there. I see lots of youngsters, and I think it probably is harder to play. There's lots of other things that they could do with their time. The one thing about distance running is you don't get success overnight, and I think that some of the modern generations want things to happen a bit too quickly. But nonetheless, I think that having a life in athletics and distance running can even today be rewarding, and I think, in my mind, the one thing that I would offer advice to any athlete at any time would be your training has to be consistent, and mileage won't do you any harm. If you've got natural speed, you should try and do that. But there's nothing wrong with a fair chunk of mileage. I've seen loads of people, many years ago, starting to up their mileage and seeing immediate benefits in their careers. So it's a different time now. I'm 71 now, and almost coming up to almost 50 years since I broke a world record. So the clock and the calendar have turned quite a few times since then. but nonetheless, I think I've been privileged to have a great time in sport, and yeah, a lot of great stories, a lot of great friends, and yeah, a pleasure to have spent my life in athletics.